The Barrel House is brought to you by you, the listener, and those of you who have chosen to support the show over at patreon.com/barrelhouse, especially our Whiskey Legend tier patrons, Greg, Katie, Lauren, and Joe. Without you, the show wouldn't be possible. Hello, and welcome to the Barrel House. Yes, and welcome back to the Barrel House, the whiskey podcast for all of us. I am your host, Joe Kane, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite keep-in-stock bottles. This definitely falls squarely in the daily drinker category. If you like to buy one bottle and just live in it, this would be a good one for you. This is Old Forester 1920, but before we dig into that, we have some housekeeping. First, I want to thank all of you who came out to the live stream, Barrel House Live. Last weekend, I had my buddy Greg, who is also the very same Greg from the intro, come out and try to find him the whiskey he would love. He's not really a whiskey guy. He dabbles a little bit, not a big fan, and doesn't hate it. We did our best. We kind of figured out what things he doesn't like, what things to kind of avoid flavor profile-wise, and we're getting there. We're honing in on what makes a whiskey for Greg, and we're going to get there before too long, I promise you. I want to thank all of you who stayed for the whole thing, because it was about 4 hours long. But I also want to thank all of you who popped in and out. We had a lot of people come in for a little bit, half hour, hour. 4 hours is a lot to ask anybody. And if you want to see any or all of it, you can check that out at barrelhousepodcast.com, which brings us to our second bit of housekeeping, brand new website. Rebuilt the whole website, and now you can listen to all the episodes in a fancy looking player or check out all of the live streams in a little playlist on their own tab. And that whiskey tasting guide that I used to promote all the time and haven't lately is getting revamped with a little bit easier to read and use style after some feedback, and that will end up on the site soon as well. So look forward to that and check out the new site. I think you're going to like it. It's a lot slicker than the old one. With that though, let's get into the bourbon, right? It's time. And this is a good one to get into. This is Old Forester 1920. Old Forester is a Brown-Forman brand, and it definitely is the brand of theirs that lands most squarely in my preferred palate. I mean, they also own Jack Daniel's, Woodford Reserve, Cooper's Craft, a handful of Scotch and Irish whiskey brands. They have some vodka, gin, wine. I mean, they have it all. You've probably heard or would recognize, or at least have heard like reference to almost everything that they own. It's all relatively big. This is more of that whiskey conglomerate kind of thing that I've talked about in past episodes, but as far as I'm concerned, it's fine. I mean, it does potentially hurt the industry long term, but there's a lot of craft distilleries popping up now, so I think we're okay. I think it's going to be okay. I don't think we're going to end up with just like two whiskey brands at the end of things, although sometimes it does feel like that. I don't think we're going that way. I think we're going to be okay. Woodford Reserve, probably their second in line for me brand-wise. I know a lot of people love Jack, and look, whatever your palate, everybody's palate's different, right? So whatever your palate lines with, you're probably going to like better. But for me, Old Forester has been the Brown-Forman product to go to for a little while now. We're not talking about the rest of them, though. We're going with Old Forester. So let's get into this. By the mid-2010s, 2015, 16, 17, I think all of Old Forester's lineup had been kind of reinvented. New labels, new names, new products to a degree, to go with this Whiskey Row line. Whiskey Row line was named after the classic and historical Whiskey Row in Kentucky, which is where a number of distilleries are currently and have been housed. It's a well-known piece of bourbon history. Today we're talking about their Prohibition style offering in the Whiskey Row, Old Forester 1920. During Prohibition, very few distilleries were granted license to produce medicinal whiskey, which, by the way, how great would it be to get a prescription for whiskey? Can we talk about how much I would love to have a doctor-prescribed dosage of whiskey? I mean, it would really get a lot of people who think that having a whiskey podcast means you have a drinking problem off my back, because I'd be doing it as the doctor's ordered. But we don't live in that world, so we just have to look back fondly on the past for now, I suppose. But Brown-Forman did manage to be one of the few distilleries that got a medicinal permit, landing permit KY-3. And in 1920, hint, hint, with the advent of Prohibition, the first bottles made under this permit hit doctors' offices, and our namesake was born. Careful attention was taken to make this as close as possible to the whiskey you may have seen in those prescription bottles, or at least of the era. The mash bill is 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% barley, which fits the Brown-Forman mold pretty well. The proof is coming in at 115, which was chosen specifically based on what they thought the typical barrel proof would have been for a whiskey at that time. And that conclusion was made on a couple of interesting decision points that got them there. First, during Prohibition, whiskey could not be bottled over 100 proof, so they were limited to that. And as to not want to have to make their whiskey and then water it down after aging, introducing a bunch of unflavored water to the whiskey, a lot of distilleries chose to water the whiskey down to 100 proof and then barrel it so that the entire product would age and marry in the barrel as it aged, right? So it wouldn't be clean unflavored water diluting the flavor. You'd get a little more mixing. So after accounting for the angel share and time, 115 proof was kind of decided on by the folks over at Brown-Forman for a relatively reasonable barrel proof for this Prohibition style bottling. 1920 is no age statement, though it is being a straight whiskey, puts it at least 4 years. And word on the street seems to be between 4 and 6 years, maybe closer to 4. I've seen a lot of people speculate 4.5 years. Regardless, it tastes much older than it is. It's 115 proof, obviously, and the MSRP is only $60, though I regularly see it for between 45 and 50. I might just be getting lucky, but at any of those prices, this is a damn good bottle. Let's get into the glass. Let's get into the pour, right? On the nose, I get slammed berries and cherry at first. The berries fade almost immediately, but the cherry hangs in there and mixes in with some banana. And that banana is going to kind of carry through this whole thing. But Brown-Forman, to me, a lot of their old foresters had this like light banana note that's just kind of always present. And I get like a little bit of butter and cinnamon, this brown sugar and caramel. The proof comes in a little hot on the nose, a little hotter than you would think at 115, but not unapproachably. I do get a bit of cereal, and I get some coffee and dark chocolate. It's funny, there's like a little bit of vanilla, and where the vanilla comes in on the nose and the strength of it, it's almost like a little bit of a French vanilla cold brew thing when it mixes with that coffee. And then obviously oak, higher proof, new oak barrels. There's definitely oak in here. It's not as oaky as the color of the bottle, the color of the whiskey would indicate. It's pretty dark, and it does not hit me as being as oaky as I would expect looking at it. On the palate, though, I noticed the proof right away. It's not unpleasant. It's not super hot, but it is spicy. It's like black pepper spicy. Like a lot of black pepper. It tingles a little bit. And I get this butter, brown sugar, rush, followed by rich charred oak. And when I say rich charred oak, I mean it tastes charred and oaky, but it is not bitter or tannic. It is a more sweet oak kind of rush, but you can definitely feel a little bit of smoke in with it. And I get kind of a bitter dark chocolate, and then this caramel, cherry, banana, the sweeter notes come in. They hit with that brown sugar and butter earlier and really balance out well the charred barrel spice, bitter dark chocolate notes really offset well. I get some coffee still on the palate, but it's more in the nose to me. But it's definitely there. It's more of like a dark roast on the nose and a light roast on the palate. And then some more very Brown-Forman characteristic roasted unsalted nuts come through. And those roasted nuts, I don't notice them hardly at all in the nose. They come in a little bit in the palate, but when you hit the finish, the first thing is all barrel spice and nuts. It's nutty, it's rich, barrel spice. Then as the finish moves on, I get some banana and cherry, vanilla, some of those sweeter notes, and that dark chocolate and that coffee linger for a little while longer than even the barrel spice or the fruits. And then the finish sort of evenly, slowly fades out, and you're kind of left with nothing but salted peanuts. And that eventually dissipates, but that lasts considerably longer than the rest. It's a really nice finish. It's a really nice palate. The whole thing, overall, if you can't tell, I love this bottle, and I always have one around. Like I said, it's cheap enough to always keep in stock. It's easy to restock. It's easy to find. Unlike a couple of the whiskeys I've reviewed lately that are harder to get your hands on, this one is everywhere. It's good enough to always be happy with. It's versatile enough for kind of if you had one bottle, like the one bottle problem, but you liked it multiple ways, this is a good bottle for that. It's great neat. It's high enough proof and flavorful enough to still be good in cocktails or on ice. If that's your bag, it doesn't disappear immediately. It does not last as long on ice as something like 1792 full proof or like a Jack single barrel proof that are like in the 60+% alcohol range, but it does hold up to ice pretty well. So you get kind of a jack of all trades here with this bottle. It's shockingly well balanced and shockingly complex, considering it's probably around 4.5, 5 years, and you really don't get any of that green, youthful vibrance that is off-putting to a lot of people. I mean, even you take another step back from what's in the bottle and just start thinking about, hey, this could be my only bottle. It is a fancy enough bottle with a fancy enough label and a dark enough whiskey to impress your casual whiskey friends who wouldn't know what it actually cost. It looks sort of expensive and doesn't break the bank. You know, I would definitely say if you're looking to pick up a bottle of bourbon, grab this one. If you don't have it already, or something very similar, maybe like a barrel pick Old Forester. If you don't have anything Old Forester, this is the one I would go to first. If you do, and you really like it, maybe add this bottle. Maybe add this bottle anyway. It's definitely one to keep around. It's a great bottle. It's a great, great bottle for the price. I really think that, and I'm not going to do a whole run here of Old Foresters, but I will get through them all over time. And I haven't had an Old Forester I don't really, really enjoy. I mean, this one in particular, with the proof being a little bit higher than most of them, also holds up to a cigar. I mean, it's really, really versatile. It's really great to have. So like I said, recommendation, definitely give this one a try. That's pretty much it for today. Thanks again to the Patreons for making the show possible. If you want to be a part of that, you can check that out at patreon.com/barrelhouse. If you're unaware, because a couple of people have asked how Patreon works, I'll give you a brief synopsis of what Patreon is right now, and I'm trying not to do this every episode because I know most of you don't want to hear this all the time. Patreon basically is a place where you can say, I want to support your show, Joe, and you can pledge $1, $5, $10, $20, whatever you want per month. I mean, I think you can actually pledge as little as you want. You could pledge nickels, I think, if you want. I don't think there's a minimum on there. I'm not sure. But at each tier, so at $1 or $5 or $10, whatever, there's a tier there. And at each tier, you unlock different benefits, which include everything from getting the episodes early to getting exclusive content like the first sip, which I've mentioned before, or even meet and greets or video calls or tastings. If you pledge enough money, I will send you a list and we can do a little tasting together and see how we over the internet. Or if you're local, maybe we can meet somewhere and do it at a bar or something. And that money helps keep the show running. So that money comes in and it helps me buy bottles for the show, buy equipment for the show, pay for the website or for the hosting. That's basically what it is. It's pretty simple. You just sign on, click how much you want to give me, and click confirm, and then you are supporting the show. But like I said in previous episodes, if you can't, don't want to, aren't comfortable with, or aren't looking to throw money at podcasts, that's fine. Just tell everyone you know about the show. Spread the word, maybe even share it on social media, and that helps a lot as well. You can send your questions and comments to me at barrelhousepodcast@gmail.com. Hit me up on the Discord where you can interact directly with me and other Igloo Media show hosts and listeners. at eargluemedia.com/Discord. Please, while you're on the internet, rate and review the show on iTunes. That goes a long way. Check out the new site with all the social links and everything else you could possibly want from me at barrelhousepodcast.com. If you're interested in the live streams, there's links there, but also follow me on Instagram. The links are on Barrel House Podcast, but it is Barrel House Podcast on Instagram, and I usually update that a lot with my schedule and stuff, so you'll be able to see when the next one's coming. And since I don't think I said it properly, really thank you to the patrons. Until next time, drink whiskey, be merry, and take care. The Barrel House is written, produced, and hosted by Joe Kane, and it's a proud member of the Ear Glue Media Network. Views and opinions expressed on this show belong only to the mouth they came out of. And as always, please remember to drink responsibly. Slàinte Mhaith.